You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan. This week we observe the upcoming International Day of the Girl Child, and we focus on girls, and, yes, the women they become. First, with a woman and a girl from Girls Right Now, that's spelled W-R-I-T-E, and then with a two-segment roundtable, an in-depth examination of why President Obama's My Brother's Keeper initiative hurts not only girls and women of color, but the whole community, and ultimately, all of us. But first we need to look inside the headlines. Inside the headlines this week is an act of mourning, the death of Samira Salih Ali al-Nuaimi, the women's rights activist and human rights activist executed by the Islamic State in Iraq. She was known for her work on human rights, but most of the media coverage of her torture, her abduction, her torture, and her execution by firing squad in a public square in Mosul refers only to the human rights and does not mention that she was especially known in Iraq and global women's movement circles for her work on women's rights. She had posted comments on her Facebook page, ironically, not on women's rights or human rights, but condemning the, quote, barbaric bombing and destroying of mosques and shrines in Mosul by ISIL. She was defending Islam, in other words, and she was convicted of apostasy, and her family has been barred from giving her a funeral. The killing is not alone. It follows the execution of a number of Iraqi women in areas under Islamic State control. The United Nations has documented this. Two women candidates contesting Iraq's general election in Nineveh province were killed in July. A third woman candidate was abducted by gunmen in eastern Mosul and have not been heard from since. And that's not counting the hundreds and hundreds of Yazidi, the religious minority, women and girls who were captured and sold into slavery, raped, or forced into marriage. But, in particular, Samira Salih Ali al-Nuaimi will be much missed. I knew her, and I mourn her. And now for our first guests. Maya Nussbaum has grown Girls Right Now over the last 17 years from a loose association of women writers into a dynamic, volunteer-powered community that has served nearly 5,000 New York City teenage girls and a nonprofit after-school program distinguished by the President's Committee on the Arts and the Humanities as one of the top 15 in the nation. She was recently named an education hero by the New York Times. And Taisha Milagros Clark is a graduate of Girls Right Now. She's an alum. She's now the co-chair of the Girls Right Now Youth Board and the president and founder of the Barnard College Civil Liberties Club. She's a rising junior at Barnard College. Here are Maya Nussbaum and Taisha Milagros Clark. Maya and Taisha, welcome to Women's Media Center Live.
Thank you for having us. We're really thrilled to be here.
Well, it's good
Thank
to have you here. Let's identify who is who for our listeners' ears. Maya, which one are you? Which voice are you?
Hi, I'm Maya.
And Taisha?
Hi, I'm Taisha.
Okay. All right. Well, let's start with Maya because you about 17 years ago, you decided you were going to create the first and I guess still the only organization that is a writing and mentoring model for girls. Girls Right Now, W-R-I-T-E. Tell how you got that idea and how you built it into this huge volunteer-powered community action.
Sure. Well, Girls Right Now has always really been a community enterprise. So there are many, many people who have helped to build it into the organization that it is today. And, when I started it, I was finishing college, not much older than the girls that we served. So for me, that time in my life, around 9th or 10th grade, was very fresh for me. And that is, from all the women I've talked to over the years, the time that they really feel, developmentally speaking as a woman, was when they got really creatively and intellectually awakened. And so my goal then and now is to connect girls at that point in their life to women role models who can model for them what it means to be a writer, to take creative risks, to get your work out there, to communicate clearly and effectively in whatever profession that you choose, and to give them as many opportunities as possible.
Well, the opportunities that you've managed to provide are really quite stunning. I just had some statistics on your work. The girls that you work with are 90% high need, 90% girls of color, 20% immigrant. And you have transformed the lives of nearly 5,000 girls, and you've sent 100% of your seniors on to college with portfolios and scholarships. And your girls have won hundreds of scholastic art and writing awards and published their work in anthologies and been at readings in Lincoln Center and the White House and the United Nations. I mean, this is fantastic work.
Thank you. Yes, we're really, really proud of our girls, and we do everything we can to nurture them on their path to all those amazing places that they've been, as well as college and beyond.
And how did you get involved, Taisha?
I found out about Girls Right Now at the end of my junior year of high school. My English teacher had chased me down after school, telling me that there was this amazing program that I needed to apply to, because she knew that I was a poet. And the more she told me about it, the less she had to convince me. And I applied. I sent in my application. I went through the interview process, and I was super nervous, and I had to call them a few weeks in because I hadn't heard back yet, and I really wanted to get in. And then I finally got that confirmation that I was accepted into the program, and it was amazing, and I've been involved ever since.
Wow. And you're now co-chair of the Girls Right Now Youth Board, right?
Yes.
And you're also president and founder of the Barnard College Civil Liberties Club, so you're now off in college.
Yeah.
And are you mentoring a girl then in turn?
I don't mentor a girl simply because I'm a poet, but I haven't necessarily continued it in my career, and I would love to be a mentor one day, but I don't necessarily think I'm equipped right now to be a mentor.
Well, I think if you're an undergraduate at Barnard, yeah, I think you've got your hands full with term papers and the like.
Yeah.
not to speak of being co-chair of the Girls Right Now Youth Board. This is amazing. How many girls at any given time are you working with, Maya?
Well, in our mentoring programs, and we have our flagship writing and mentoring program and our digital media mentoring program, we're serving 100 mentees and 100 mentors. So they're matched together in a one-to-one mentoring relationship.
Wow.
And then we serve another 200 to 250 through our college prep program.
Wow. And is there a sort of set way of mentoring, or is it up to each pair as they pick it up?
We have a finely tuned curriculum and structure.
You do.
And so so all of the girls and mentors are subscribing to that, but it does allow a lot of space for them to pursue their own particular interests and to really explore creative expression as deeply and broadly as they like. Basically, the nuts and bolts are that they're the girls and who you described very well, and the mentors who are all professional writers from a range of different disciplines. They're poets, playwrights, novelists, screenwriters, journalists. They're matched together with the girls one-to-one.
Wow.
And they're working together weekly in mentoring sessions focused on writing. And then once a month, the girls and the mentors gather together for group genre-based workshops that capitalize on the fields that our mentors are experts in. So they take our curriculum and they infuse it with new energy ideas and their own literature. And
How amazing.
And that really becomes, yes, thank you. I was just going to say that becomes the launching pad for the pair sessions that happen in between.
Of course, of course. You must be very proud. You must be drunk with success. I mean, because this is just not done. And I can tell you from my own personal experience that there was one teacher who made that difference, and who when I said shyly I want to be a writer, took me seriously. And said, "Oh, so you want to write? What do you want to write?" And I thought I'd died and gone to heaven on the spot,
So important.
It's just so important. And she also, I remember, gave me a volume of Yeats, a concordance and a variorum. In other words, that it had different versions of poems as he revised them. And I didn't know that such a thing existed. And so I was a huge fan of the poetry of Yeats, and I somehow thought that these poems came magically all of a piece. And when I discovered the way that he worked through a poem and in stage after stage after stage of revision, the entire world of craft opened up to me. So the kind of work that you're doing is invaluable for a writer.
That's a wonderful story. I love hearing that.
Well, and also the confidence that you must be giving these girls and the sense of themselves is just invaluable.
Yeah, I mean, Taisha, I wonder if you want to talk about how the program and your mentor, affected you personally.
That would be great.
Well, I love girls right now. My mentor was Mary, and she was the most amazing mentor that I could have had. It was like a speed dating thing. Well, not really dating, like getting to know who the mentor was. And she was my first pick, and I was hers. And when I found out that she was my mentor, it was just amazing. I found that being in the program was my first opportunity to truly express myself. I found that my writing could be raw and unapologetic, and that I could not be afraid and have my writing have that impact that I really wanted it to have, that I could write without hesitating, without fear of is somebody not going to agree with what I'm saying. And I've never felt as comfortable in my writing and in my own skin and as sure as myself as I have been since Girls right now.
Oh, this is wonderful to hear. Tell. I know that there's going to be a sort of major event coming up, and so if there are people in the area who want to be able to make it there, talk about that, and also be sure and give the website.
Definitely, thank you. Yeah, we're very proud of the work we've done, and we have a lot of work to do. And so on October 10th, we'll be celebrating International Day of the Girl. It will happen in two parts, where up to 100 of our girls were invited to the United Nations and some of them to present their own original writing. We'll also have the opportunity at the United Nations to screen a collaborative music video that Girls Right Now produced called Ode to Malala. That will happen as part one, and then we will be gathering for a roundtable discussion, which we're very pleased, Robin, that you will be part of. And not only you, but also Taisha. So we will have an intergenerational discussion about the importance of a girl's right to write, the importance of narrative, and how we all need to share our stories. Also on the panel will be Bridget Davis, whose new novel, Into the Go Slow, is really relevant to the conversation. Farron Jacobs, the editor of I Am Malala, the Young Readers Edition, and Rachel Ferschleiser from Tumblr. The panel will be moderated by Bina Kamlani, senior editor at Penguin Random House. So this is a really dynamic group of women authors and editors, and there'll be deep, important discussion as well as cocktails and hors d'oeuvres, and we invite everyone to come out and support Girls Right Now and the next generation of women writers.
I'm looking forward to it. And how do they find out how to get there and what tickets and things like that?
Yes, thank you. All the details are on our website at www.girlsrightnow.org. So that's GIRLSWRITENOW.org.
Wonderful, wonderful, and wonderful work that you do. I look forward very much to the roundtable, and I'm very grateful to both of you for being with us today on Women's Media Center Live and for all the great work you do.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
We have to take a short break here at Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan, and when we return, we'll have a quick trip into the Surrealism Corner, and then we'll settle into our two-segment roundtable on why we can't wait.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome back, and let's duck right into the Surrealism Corner. Two short items this week. You may have encountered both of them, but I could not let Surrealism Corner go by without putting these two into it, in case you missed either one. Two Fox News commentators talking about the United Arab Emirates woman pilot who was part of the coalition forces bombing Syria and Iraq, commented that she can bomb, but she can't park it. And the other one said, "Does this mean boobs on the ground?" Have you any idea what it takes in the United Arab Emirates to become a pilot, much less a bomber pilot? And this was their response. And then Sarah Palin, who does, after all, believe in equality and was trying to prove that women can be just as dumb as men, referred to the most famous address in the country as 1400 Pennsylvania Avenue, when actually the White House is at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. But you see, she can't see it from her porch the way she can see Russia. And now it's time for our two-segment special roundtable. A week or so ago, Kimberlé Crenshaw was a guest on the program, and afterwards we were chatting, and it became clear to me that this needed much more attention than we were able to give the subject she was on discussing, which was the response of black women and women of color in general to the President's My Brother's Keeper initiative. So we are returning to the subject in depth with a two-segment roundtable, because I love roundtables and so do you. The participants are Kim Crenshaw, who is a professor of law at UCLA and Columbia Law School and a leading authority in the area of civil rights, black feminist legal theory, and race, racism, and the law. And she has been a guest on this program before. In alphabetical order, Kristie Dotson is an associate professor of philosophy at Michigan State University and a senior fellow at the Center for Intersectionality and Social Policy Studies at Columbia Law School. Dr. Dotson edited a special issue on women of color feminist philosophy for Hypatia, a journal of feminist philosophy, and co-edited a 3-volume series of books entitled Race, Hybridity, and Miscegenation. Danielle E. Gary is a GEMS Youth Outreach Fellow. Well, you know what I mean. GEMS stands for Girls Educational and Mentoring Services, and we've done a program on their remarkable work before. She is involved as well with multiple community organizations throughout New York City, including GEMS, Grand Street Settlement, and Streetwise and Safe. She is an advocate for issues surrounding the commercial sexual exploitation of children. Joanne N. Smith is the founder and executive director of Girls for Gender Equity. She's a Haitian-American social worker born in New York City, and she founded Girls for Gender Equity in 2001 to end gender-based violence and promote gender, race, and class equality. She's an alumna of Hunter Graduate School of Social Work and Columbia Institute for Nonprofit Management, and she just co-authored her first book, published by the Feminist Press, Hey Shorty, a guide to combating sexual harassment and violence in public schools and on the streets. And Salamishah Tillet, also returning to the program, is an associate professor of English at the University of Pennsylvania and has faculty appointments in the Africana Studies and Gender, Sexuality, and Women's Studies. She and her sister, Scheherazade, co-founded A Long Walk Home, a nonprofit NGO that uses art therapy and the visual and performing arts to end violence against all girls and women. She's the author of Sites of Slavery, Citizenship, and Racial Democracy in the Post-Civil Rights Imagination, a book that Henry Louis Gates called a dazzling analysis. Here is our roundtable. Welcome, everybody, to Women's Media Center Live. Kimberlé, Salamishah, Joanne, Danielle, and Kristie, it's very good to have you here. Welcome. And I think, Kimberlé, you were going to start, weren't you?
Yes. So I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
Bring us up to speed for the listeners who have been on Mars or something about what Why We Can't Wait is and how it came to be, and about the town halls that we're here to discuss.
Well, Why We Can't Wait is a broad group of women and men who have come together to propose a realignment of the President's Racial Justice Initiative called My Brother's Keeper. It's actually part of a longer-term conversation that's been going on among progressive people of color who are interested in anti-racism that is both anti-patriarchal and anti-heteronormative. And that's been a problem for some years. The foundations and many of those in the racial justice community have largely reframed anti-racism as largely a black male problem, along an idea that there is a black male endangerment that is distinct, unique, and in all cases and all ways worse than the kind of endangerment that women of color and black women and girls in particular are facing. And so this all more or less came to a head after the Trayvon Martin murder. After his acquittal, the president said that there's not there's not a lot of structural things that he was going to do, but he was going to convene a bully pulpit to send a message to African American boys that they are loved and they are cared for, which everybody supported. But the implicit piece of that message, which has been made more explicit, is, and black girls and black women don't have specific kinds of issues that require the same kind of attention and messaging that went for black boys and boys of color more broadly. So that came to a head with My Brother's Keeper, and that prompted many of us who had been working in the area of girls of color, particularly looking at push out. Black girls are more likely than any other girls to be suspended from school, and that leads to a long-term life consequence of being underemployed. Black women basically have a net worth of $120. That means that the majority of black women are virtually worth nothing, and they have been most left behind by the economic recovery. All these are facts that people just didn't know. They just don't know it. And that helps reinforce the idea that black men and boys are exceptional and that we have to create interventions for them. So the African American Policy Forum for the last couple of years has been moving around the country trying to work with other groups to create some space to talk about what's happening with girls of color in particular, like the things that are happening to them in school, the things that are happening to them with respect to trafficking, juvenile incarceration. All of these are crisis areas that aren't really understood, and consequently there's not stakeholder investment, there's not policy investment, there's not anti-racist investment. So what we are trying to do is raise awareness to what's happening to women, to break the silence to what's happening to girls.
Oh, this is so important. This is in part because what happens to men, any men, is more public, and so it gets more attention. What happens to women, any women, is public, but more in the private realm as well, whether it's violence, whether it's rape. Yeah. So women don't
see this.
You don't make it on the radar to begin with.
Yes, women of color and girls and black women have simply fallen out of the equation because of so much of the policy is seen as private-oriented. So welfare reform, family dissolution, all the ways that the system is violent against women of color and girls generally is not recognized. And then the way that state violence, police violence, impacts bodies, black female bodies, isn't frequently taken up. So in a lot of the conversation that we've been having lately, prompted by what's happening in Ferguson, there's a constant effort that we have to make to remind people of all of the black women who have been killed by police and abused by police. So it's both putting women into the public frame and also elevating the private frame where they are victimized and abused.
Yes, excellent. And there was a petition, and there still is a petition, and now there's going to be town halls. Say just a word or two about the petition, and then we'll go on to the town halls.
We began with a letter from 200 plus African American men, basically identifying themselves as black men who are feminists, and who are taking up their responsibility to talk about the partnerships that have long pushed forward anti-racism, and their concerns about how My Brother's Keeper steps away from the history of anti-racist struggle in which men and women, all women were together. And then that was followed by a 1,400 signature letter that represented women of color who were also calling for a realignment of My Brother's Keeper, not simply My Sister's Keeper, and not simply an add-on, but broadening the frame beyond these cultural pathology ideas, beyond the idea that you fix the community just by putting fathers back in the family, and instead elevating all families, elevating the needs of all people of color in the community, and making that the legacy of the Obama administration.
About time. Okay, well, let's move on now to the actual need and a voice of need and a survivor. Danielle, are you there with us?
Hi, I am here.
Hi, well, welcome. And talk for a bit about why We Can't Wait is important to you.
Because I'm a young black girl in a low-income community. And really, the programs that are accessible to me are limited, if any. And I feel like we come from the same communities as boys of color that are in low-income communities, and issues plague us just the same. So I don't really understand why funds are so, abundant when it comes to boy initiatives, and then as it pertains to girls, the ball is completely dropped. So issues that plague girls, from dating and sexual violence, teen pregnancy, which could really lead to school push-out. I mean, the issues here are abundant as well. And from the teachers in the schools that I go to the commander-in-chief of my country, people in power disregard the issues that I face and lead me to really fend for myself.
And what has been your general life experience that in facing this situation?
It's been limited, because by the time I've been able to find a program or a body of people that are willing to help, the issue is already passed. So I'm not talking about what's going on now,
Yeah.
I'm talking about, when I was 17, this was happening, and I didn't have any support systems.
Mm. And this happens to
So
a
by
lot.
that time, it's too late. And then you're older, so it's too late because the programs that were available, you're too old for them now at the age of 19.
Oh, wow. There's an age cutoff, of course. Why didn't I think of that? Well, who else wants to jump in here now? Joanne, you work, I think, with Danielle.
Well, hi, I'm Joanne, and I am the founder of Girls for Gender Equity. And so Danielle actually is going to be an expert panelist at our October 11th Town Hall, Breaking the Silence, a hearing on girls of color, where we have partnered with African American Policy Forum and many community-based organizations to really speak out and provide public testimony on the issues affecting girls and women.
Oh, this is going to be very exciting. Town halls always have a real heartbeat, a pulse to them, because the community can speak and the world is forced to listen by the sheer drama of the moment, and it is always very dramatic. That's quite wonderful. Where does that October 11th panel take place, and how can people get there?
Absolutely. So Professor Crenshaw is hosting at Columbia Law School, and it really is going to be a gift to the community. And when I say community, students, parents, educators, more than 200 RSVPs are already confirmed.
Great.
Because people are waiting to hear and learn from girls and young women of color. So people can RSVP for the town hall on Facebook at Girls for Gender Equity or African American Policy Forum. People can actually RSVP at girlsmatter, gge@gmail.com. And at the town hall, we will be fortunate to have Public Advocate Letitia James, City Council Member Lori Cumbo, Toko Sarita, Chief Judge of the State of New York Queens Trafficking Court, and many, many more advocates, expert panelists like Danielle, and testifiers really coming together as community to speak up against leaving girls and women out of the narrative and for a community that is inclusive.
Oh, this is going to be dynamite. Well, we'll give the how to contacts again before we go, maybe twice, so that people can get there. You better prepare for standing room only, or to move to a bigger venue.
That's right.
It's about time. Yeah, it really is. Salamishah, you weigh in on this. You've been present at pretty much every initiative that I can remember in my 72,000 years, as I'm now very old, where anti-racism and anti-sexism has overlapped. There's been Salamishah, and of course you're involved in this as well. Are you going to be at the town halls or part of the planning?
Well, we are. I'm Salamishah and co-founder of A Long Walk Home, and so we're one of the co-sponsors of the town hall. And I think just to give another shout out for the town hall, and it's on the International Day of the Girl. So I think it's pretty remarkable that this town hall is taking place and centering African American girls who tend to also be like displaced in the larger crisis around girlhood or around gender inequity that girls experience internationally. So I do think it's a really compelling moment just to also think about the ways that African American girls are dealing with many of the same issues that girls around the world are dealing with in terms of disparity and discrimination, as well as a set of issues that are kind of unique to their racial identity here in the United States. And I guess also, as Kim pointed out, one of the ways in which I think the conversation about racial injustice has also been framed this summer is through Ta-Nehisi Coates' really interesting and really important essay in the New Atlantic on reparations. And I bring that up only because the community that he looked at in North Lawndale, Chicago, is one of the communities that we work in with A Long Walk Home, and specifically around empowering African American girls. So in his essay, he talks about all of these kind of factors and markers of inequity and disparity in terms of violence and in terms of poverty. And you take all of that, and then you add the fact that girls in these communities in North Lawndale are experiencing unprecedented rates of sexual assault, dating violence, street harassment, alongside the police brutality and racial profiling and poverty that their neighborhood is violated, and that is oppressing their neighborhood. It just also adds to the dire need that African American girls and girls of color in general in this country face when it comes to racial justice and gender justice. So for me, it's really just an interesting moment that MBK is so targeted towards boys of color, when even the data and the narratives that are capturing our public imagination not only include girls of color, but that they're also disproportionately harmed in those same communities that we say that we're galvanizing around, or we're saying that we're seeking reparations for. So.
Yeah. Indeed. We're going to have to pause here for just a moment, and when we come back, I want to start with Kristie Dotson, whom I did not get to yet, so we'll start right off with her, but in the meanwhile, we'll take a break. This is Women's Media Center Live, and I'm Robin Morgan, and we'll be back in just a moment, so don't go away.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
And we're back with Kimberlé Crenshaw, Salamishah Tillet, Joanne Smith, Danielle E. Gary, and the person that we did not get to the first round, Kristie Dotson. Kristie, how are you involved with Why We Can't Wait and the town halls and this wonderful initiative?
That's a hard question. I think that, unlike most of the wonderful people who've spoken so far, I'm involved because, actually, we all share this. I'm involved because I care. I don't have a group that I've started. I don't necessarily, my day job is not necessarily what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, as a black woman and as a black feminist, I can't allow the exclusion of girls of color and women of color continue, because what are the consequences of those exclusions? And I think that's what we've been talking about so far. The consequences, what are the messages that we are told? We're told that we don't have a value, right? That our plight, that our experiences, that our suffering is not as valuable as other members of our community. And we're told that in discourses about what it means to correct these problems in our very communities, right? Yeah. And we're also and it goes so far as to say that even daring to care about girls of color with respect to our respective communities is traitorous. Yeah. Right? Yeah. That we are actually...
That's the final blow, yeah.
Right, that we're actually stopping progress. When you dare to care about every member of the black community, for example, black girls, trans and cis black girls, black men and boys. The idea is that somehow we have stepped off, a racial justice platform. To me, that the message that gets sent there, who has value and who doesn't, and value is not a statement. You can't just say, I value you. Value is an orientation. It's how you create your racial justice platforms. And MBK, racial justice in the 21st century looks like racial justice really for the past 30 years, which means that we are really talking about men, and in fixing men, we will somehow fix you. The patriarchy, the heterosexism, but really the devaluation of women of color and girls of color, I'm here because that has to end.
Wow, Kristie. And what you raise about value being attributed to boys and men and not to girls and women, in fact, valuelessness being attributed to girls and women, is not only emotional, psychological, and metaphorical, but it is literal. One of the things that bugs the hell out of me is that the response from the White House at one point was, girls and women are covered by the White House Initiative on Girls. Now, first of all, the White House Initiative on Girls is not as multicultural as I personally would wish it to be, in its structure, in its focus, in its awareness of overlapping issues and constituencies and and problems faced and solutions.
That's right.
number one. Number two, just at the plain old, let's get down to it, dollars and cents level, my brother's keeper already has raised, it's over 200 million. I think it's closing now on 300 million.
It's above that now.
It's above that now. Oh my God. And the White House initiative on girls, there has never been anything on girls and women that raised that much money as a government initiative, ever. So to say, well, we have this, but you have that, is specious, because you don't have that, since you don't have the 300 million. Leaving aside the fact that I don't understand why it can't be our children's keeper. If they want to do separate but equal, and I thought we'd gone down that path sometime and found it was not a great path. But even if they did, I don't see them raising $300 and throwing it at women and girls.
And it's damaging, right? Because of the messages it sends.
Yeah.
Not, to all of us. I think that, I've been part of this group as in outreach. I spent a lot of time getting signatures on the Women of Color statement, which I encourage anyone to go and sign on AAPF's website, because ultimately it's traumatic to actually think through what MBK means.
Yeah.
I think we live it, we experience it, but it's actually somewhat easier for women of color, particularly, and girls of color, to just fold into this narrative, to just fight, for men and boys of color. It's so much easier just to accept that than to accept what looks like an extreme devaluation of our existence.
Yeah.
This is Joanne Smith. It's also damaging for students who, in the Department of Education, will be attending school where My Brother's Keeper will be housed. Make no mistake, this is President Obama's Clinton Global Administration. So students that we have worked with in after-school programs have really already shown, and boys in particular, how gender-exclusive programming hurts boys and girls. So in particular, with our gender respect workshops, let me just read a couple quotes for you, Robin. With these workshops, boys and girls in the class were asked, if you had a sex change and woke up the opposite gender the next day, what would you do and how would your life be different? The boys in elementary school, third grade, answered, if I woke up as a girl, I would feel insane and I would kill myself and jump out of my window. I would put on lipstick, in that order. Right? I would be more scared to walk home because I might be kidnapped or raped. Girls said, if I woke up as a boy, I would rap like a boy. I would exercise like a boy does almost every day. I would have fun flirting with girls, and I would have a different mind, like a scientist or something. Now, these are gender respect workshops that happened in 2007, 2008. If this My Brother's Keeper initiative in its current form is housed in New York City Public Schools, this is the curricula that they are going to internalize.
Yes. Wow. It really does reinforce that. Well, and it also doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't solve the problem even for boys. It's going back to Moynihanism, it's going back to the assumption that there are individual solutions. If you mentor enough, then it will all be fine, instead of looking at the structure of racism and sexism. It's going back to if only there were more black male heads of households. The problem is all those black women just killing themselves raising children and being matriarchs. My God. So we've been there. This is old, tired reasoning, and it's so heartbreaking to see it resurrected. But
Robin, this is Kim, and that is one of the things that's so shocking about it. I mean, there were a lot of hopes that people placed on this new administration. I don't think a lot of people really foresaw that we were going to go backwards when it comes to racial justice and its inclusiveness. But in fact, what we have is a 20-year campaign on the part of some foundations to elevate the Moynihan frame. And you may know this, we're coming up on the 50th anniversary. So there's going to be a lot of celebration, a lot of revisitation, a lot of Moynihan was right all along. And we've actually seen some documentary footage that tries to place Moynihan in the context of black, civil rights struggles. So Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, then, Moynihan.
Wow.
So, we're fighting a deep ideological fight as well as a material one. And I think listeners ought to know that this is not just going to be limited to women of color. One of the reports supporting Moynihan says that the level of single-headed households that pertain to black people in the 60s is now being experienced by white families in 2014. So the implicit message is that the interventions that we're trying to play out here with respect to families of color, black families in particular, you might see that coming down the pike eventually for white families. And we know that in the same way that the attack on welfare reform started with an attack on black women, we know that what happens here will eventually spread to other communities. So it's everyone's issue.
Yes, it is. It's also the old, if they come for me in the morning and you do nothing, if they come for me in the evening and you do nothing, they will come for you in the morning,
This is Salamishah, and when we're talking about ways in which I think MBK with a gender inclusive lens could be helpful for communities, in all communities. In Chicago and in North Lawndale, the community that Along Walk Home works in, there was a young girl at the school that we partner with who was sexually assaulted on her way to her everyday walk to school, and she was sexually assaulted by a group of young men and boys. And she lives in North Lawndale. There's no rape crisis center there. There's no domestic violence center there. It's the third highest instance of sexual violence in the state of Illinois. And the only resource was the school that has this partnership with us, Along Walk Home. And, she's a classic case of someone who would benefit from both policies that are particularly attuned to communities of color, working class communities, and education, right? Because she dropped out of school as a result of her sexual assault. But also now is on a pipeline for low-wage jobs, and also was a single mom as a result of her experience. And so I think of girls like this, and I wonder why they have to fall through cracks of both, the cracks of the welfare state, but also the cracks of our own community and our own narratives about which children matter more and which children are suffering more. And so we come across girls like this all the time, as well as Joanne with Girls for Gender Equity. And I guess that's what's driving my passion, but also just the dire need for our country to understand that these girls are valuable, that they're resourceful, and also that they're the key to all of our futures.
Yes. Oh, God, yes.
This is Kristie. The MBK frame and the way the racial justice is being seen right now in terms of male-only terms serves to outlaw concern for girls and women of color. It outlaws this concern by making any specific attempt to draw attention to the plight of girls of color and women of color, their unique plight, their unique ways of experiencing racialized gendered oppression, seem as if somehow it is against community interest. Yeah. That every time one tries to focus on girls of color, one is paradoxically not focusing on race. That every time someone wants to bring up what would need to happen for the world to be safe for girls of color and women of color is a concern that actually directs us away from what it would mean for the world to be safe for the race, right? And it strikes me that if the goal of racial justice is a place where no one is prey, then this kind of outlawing of concern is indeed detrimental to our communities.
It is. It's, it's like there you are trying to say, could we please be inclusive? And you're accused of being divisive.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
It's also kill the messenger,
Yes, it is.
So, okay, we've got to begin to draw this to a close, but I want to be very sure somebody, Salamishah or Joanne or Kim or Kristie or Danielle, somebody give the name of the website where people can sign the petition. Loud and clear, and the name of places that people can go to find out where and how they can RSVP to the October 11th town hall, which sounds like a really historic event. So somebody jump in and give those.
Let me just pull up the African American Policy Forum website, because that is where you can find the petition at aapf.org.
aapf.org. That's the petition. You can sign it and enter history.
And if you go to Facebook, Girls for Gender Equity, you can RSVP for the town hall. You can also email girlsmattergge@ggеnyc.org.
girlsmattergge@ggge.org.
And
okay.
nyc.org.
Oh, that's a long one. Say that one again.
girlsmattergge@ggеnyc.org.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all, each one of you individually and all of you together for doing this. This was, I wish we had time to go on for hours, but that's the reason for the Speak Out and for the town halls. And there will be other town halls because we're not going away, right?
Right.
Thanks again very much. And thank you for all the work that you're doing all the time and for being with us on Women's Media Center Live. This has been wonderful. Thank you again.
Thank you, Robin. Thanks for having us.
We need to take one more quick break here at Women's Media Center Live, where I am now very invigorated by that roundtable, Robin Morgan. And when we come back, we're going to have some fighting words.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome back, just in time for Fighting Words. Fighting Words is almost always about some new indignity, a political version of Dorothy Parker's "What Fresh Hell Is This?" that has occurred in the previous week. But I got to thinking about all the previous segments of Fighting Words on this program and how the stories in them had not necessarily been resolved at all. They were dangling still. The 300 girls in Nigeria abducted by Boko Haram are still abducted. A few have escaped. One was recently found wandering almost incoherent in the bush. It's unclear whether they released her or she escaped, but some others who have escaped have spoken of multiple rapes, of mutilations, and of forced conversions. And a number of the escapees, not that there are many of them, went catatonic at the name Boko Haram. That's still going on. Women still can't drive in Saudi Arabia. George Zimmerman walks free still. Native American women are raped and sexually assaulted more than double the rate of women of all other ethnic groups still. Guns are still widely available to pretty much anybody at any time, any place in this country. And the families of the downed airliners, either the vanished one or the one that was downed over Ukraine, are still mourning, still in deep grief. So I began to think, is it necessary to forget in order to go on living, in order to go on fighting, in order to talk with friends and laugh and drink and eat and celebrate life? I don't want to do that either. I don't want to forget. But the trick, I guess, is to not let the remembering paralyze you so that you can't live to fight another day. So I'm going to try very hard to remember and keep the remembrance separate from despair, because these horrific occurrences will only end when we end them, and for that we need to be alive and celebrate life. And that's it for today. Join us next week when Jenny Nordberg, the author of a truly memorable book about girls underground in Afghanistan, will be with us, along with Anita DeFranz, Olympian medalist and IOC member, and the First Lady of New York City, Shirlane McRae, who comes out of the women's movement, one of our own. Remember to visit us at WMCLive.com for the archive of all our previous episodes, and be sure to find WMC Live on Facebook, Twitter, and at iTunes worldwide, where you can stream, download, and subscribe to our show's podcast. Portions of this program were taped earlier. Opinions voiced on this program do not necessarily represent those of the WMC. Here's the family for Women's Media Center Live. WMC President and Executive Producer of this program, Julie Burton, Senior Producer, Crystal Williams-Chancellor, and our founding sponsor, Regina K. Scully. I'm Robin Morgan, your producer and host. Thank you for being with us. Do something supportive for a girl this next week. And if you don't know any, then, well, find one. Or do something supportive for the girl in yourself. And join us next week right here on Women's Media Center Live.
For the smartest talk about news, politics, sex, books, religion, race, and more, tune your radio to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan. Audacious, witty, provocative, informative, and fun. It's Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on WMCLive.com. Talk radio with a brain.